Does everybody have galactic relatives or galactic past lives?
Not necessarily past lifetimes, but we all have galactic DNA within us because we were made by, ET beings. So our DNA, we all have a mixture of galactic DNA. So if we learn to tune into that, then we can go back and trace back to our origins.
Are the galactic beings more advanced, like from a consciousness standpoint, from an intelligence standpoint, from a combination of all of the above than humans?
Yeah, most of them are. But surely there's planets and, constellations out there with primitive life being forces where it's just like elementals or like, amoebas. There's less evolved ones, but most of the ones that are in contact with Earth, well, I would say all the ones that are in contact with Earth and communicating with us are more evolved, yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Althea Lucrezia Avanzo with us on the show today. Althea is a light language channeler, galactic contact, and psychic healer. Among other things, she says she channels 5D frequencies and higher. I have no clue what that means, so I'll be asking her to explain and demonstrate it to us. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now let's go talk with Althea. Althea, welcome, girl.
Thank you so much for having me.
So delighted to have you. You told me before we started recording that I could call you Alti, so that's how I'm going to talk to you. That's how I'm going to refer to you as Alti. What's a light language?
What's light language?
Yeah.
So light language is, for me, the way I understand it and how I work with it. I see it as the new technology that's coming in to assist on a planetary and collective level. So if you imagine Reiki, Reiki energy, a light language to me would be kind of like the further development of that. Light language works beyond the concepts of space and time, so it bypasses the conscious mind and works directly on the DNA structure. It can be expressed in so many different ways. It's a direct connection, an expression of the soul in connection to source consciousness. So it can be danced, sung, written, spoken. It cannot be translated verbatim. Just for convenience's sake, we say language, but it's more kind of like a phonetic frequency experience that comes through the throat chakra. Some people who have vision activated will be able to see the light language come through as sacred geometry. The light language is very connected to the sacred geometry as well. And the codes are intelligent. They go where they are needed in the system at that moment in time. So let's say someone receives a light language video on Tuesday, but their system is already working on clearing their solar plexus. They will only integrate the light language when they go to sleep or the next day. The codes can be attuned and they can be programmed in order to enter the system at the point which is best for the individual. So to me, it's literally like one of the best tools that there is out there because it can literally, assist on a whole bunch of different levels. It can assist on timeline clearing. It can assist, to clear the chakras. It can assist to open up, to ground, balance the line, release cording, create protection, make shields. It can activate dormant codes, and it can assist with soul fragment retrieval as well. So, I can speak about how light language works for a whole hour. So, but this would be maybe like in a nutshell, I think, yeah.
Where's it come from? Where's it originate?
It really depends. So when it comes through and it's channeled through a being, it is infused. Generally, if there's a starseed connection, it can be galactically infused. However, the humanity has been speaking in tongues and doing channeling since the beginning of time. So the languages that would come through before, the Earth reached a tilting point within the ascension and awakening process, and the baseline vibrational frequency of the planet rose to what it is now, the light language would be more earth-based, more earth-infused, more elemental-infused. So it's a direct connection through source consciousness. So generally, if your light language channeler is operating from a space of integrity, it will channel through the heart center. Sometimes it happens that it gets bypassed and then people channel, in different ways, and then there can be some distortion there. But I wouldn't say that it comes from one specific place. It comes, from a fifth dimensional density realm where there is no space and time. So it comes from everywhere.
So it's coming from source is what I heard you say, basically. And it's just another way to communicate frequencies to humans and others, perhaps in galaxies far, far away, that is useful. And it has its own, what I'm hearing you, so help me with this, what I'm hearing you say is that it kind of fine-tunes itself to the individual person to whom it's being sent, or the person that's receiving it. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, correct. Yeah, correct. Because the codes are intelligent, whenever a person receives it, will integrate it in the way that is best for them at that moment in time.
Okay. And you mentioned starseeds. Can you explain what that is for those that are watching and listening and have no clue what a starseed is? Please.
Yes, of course. So for me, for example, like when I was about 9 years old, I remember seeing on this old television, they still had the box TVs from the 90s, so there were no flat screens. And I remember seeing this woman in an interview saying that she had lifetimes on Pleiades. And I didn't know what Pleiades was, but I was like, oh my God, me too.
What is Pleiades?
For those who don't know, it's a constellation within the Taurus. So basically, starseeds would be these evolved souls which have come back and reincarnated in Earth, which have had other experiences in other constellations, planets, galaxies, even universes sometimes, and chose to reincarnate here in the body to assist with the ascension awakening process. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're a starseed, you're going to be doing energy healing. You know what I mean? Everyone has their own journey, so you can be assisting the ascension process by building a school for children and still be a starseed. So everyone has their own journey, but I would say that it's people who have had a recollection of past, parallel, and future lifetimes outside what would be your Earth-based lifetimes, and with that memory, they do this healing work within themselves, and then start to activate and open up more to their psychic gifts and intuition, and do the soul fragment retrieval, and then start operating from a space which is more within a 5D template.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack, and we're going to get to those because I've got questions for you on a lot of that stuff. When you're talking about coming from another planet, I, on an episode a couple weeks ago with Simon Bound, he did a hypnotist thing with me, hypnotized me and did a past life regression to find out where my healing journey started. And it started 500 billion light years away on another star. And I was like, what? And so it was really interesting, and we get into it in detail. But I hear you talk about these starseeds, and I can't help but thinking about the movie Men in Black, where it's some kind of an alien being that has kind of a human suit on. And some of them are white hats, they're good, and some of them are not so good. Oh, explain, I get that that's Hollywood magic, but is it that when somebody is a starseed, are they cognizant that they're a starseed from their human perspective? And is their DNA, is their physiological makeup different from somebody who isn't a starseed?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So you have to consider two things. You have to consider the biological and physical body, and then you have to consider the blueprint structure of the soul, which are two different things. So I believe that within the body, within the system, we have the genetic keys to everything. Like we are, like this is the best machine that you could be given, literally. But when it comes to the soul, that's a little bit different, because the soul, it's the one that's had the lessons and the experiences. Again, I believe that we are infinite beings of light. So even if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh, I want to be a starseed, but I don't know if I am. But, you can be anything you want. So don't limit yourself. Like even what I say, take it with a grain of salt. If it resonates, good. If it doesn't, that's also okay. Because remember, we all here live in this experience, So something I might say might resonate with someone and not with someone else. So don't take it as, the absolute truth, she's saying it, and that's what it is. It's really important to form and create your own ideas and understandings. So with regards to the soul generally has these experiences and these lessons, and then comes on earth to learn more of these lessons, and then chooses to, if they get learned within a specific lifetime, then it can choose to leave. So for me, for example, I do cycles. I'll do an earth like 500 to 1,000 years, then I'll leave. I'll go on like another planet, another constellation. I'll maybe do like 500-600 years there. Then I'll come back here, maybe like do 200 or 300 years. Then I'll go away and do like 1,000 somewhere else, sort of thing. That's kind of like how my soul and system operates. And then when you've had those level of experiences outside, the earth, you actually get to choose what body to come in. So you're like, okay, I want to come into this body, this family, because I need to learn these lessons and whatnot. So it's really a matter of remembering, I would say, of, understanding yourself and doing the shadow work, and then go back into remembering. And I think a lot of people are confused because, we get disempowered from societal constructs, from, consumeristic society, like, oh, you need this external thing to be happy, or you need this relationship or this job, while it's really all going back to the self. And also, like, I think also another thing is a lot of people have this attachment to identity. Like, yes, we're here speaking about starseeds and saying, oh, I seeded in Pleiades. Oh, I lived in medieval times. Oh, I was in ancient Atlantis and Lemuria. Yes, but also don't get too attached to that either. Again, you're an infinite being of light. So I have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Understand it, integrate it, release it, and let it go. And then kind of like move forward. Because a lot of people get stuck like, no, I am a starseed from Lyra and it's this, and that. And yes, but you're also a lot more than that.
Well, you're a human on Earth having a human experience.
Exactly.
This round. Yeah. The other thing, when you say, okay, I did this 1,000-year cycle and then this 500-year cycle, I think it's important to mention, at least it's been my experience in talking with billions of spirits over the years, is that time as we know it in our human existence doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. You want to explain that? What's your opinion of all of that? How does it work from what you have come to believe?
Yeah, this is a lovely question. I actually held a workshop, I think it was like a few months ago, on learning how to control time, to speed it up, slow it down, and navigate it within your own 3D experience. So to understand how time works, you need to understand how dimensional densities work, which isn't the density of the soul. Like, there's also soul densities, but that's different. So if you imagine like the dimensional densities overlapping, you'll have the first dimensional density where something just is. It just is. The second one, it overlaps, it has consciousness of being. In the third one, which is the 3D reality that we're living in now, something is, it has consciousness of being, it can now take action. However, it is limited by constraints of time and space. When you access your 4D realm, which is your astral realm, where your disembodied spirits would be, where, your lower and higher tiers of 4D, when you dream, you have no limitation of time, because time is all happening at the same time. However, you still have a limitation of space. You still need to walk, run, fly, and move to places. When you access your fifth dimensional density realms, there's no more limitation of time and space. So I think time is a really important tool that we can use, to our advantage. Learning how to slow down time, speed up time, understand time. And yeah, that's kind of like my take on it and how I understand it within the dimensional densities. You can learn to live in a 5D template within your human structure, but operate on a 3D realm. That is the essential. That's what's going to happen. We're not going to fly or go anywhere. We're just going to start co-creating our reality and understanding how, time and space work, and all the multidimensional, multifaceted aspects of this construct that we live in. And we're going to start utilizing them to create our reality while still living within solid third dimensional density.
Okay. All that was way above my pay grade, girl. We're gonna have to dissect that here in a minute, because you're going 3D, 5D. I'm going, okay, whoa, over my head. So I need you to enlighten me on that in a minute. But first, I had a client earlier this afternoon, and we were doing a past life situation with her to help heal an energy block and a tear in her energy field membrane, which, as I perceive it, is the container that holds the energy that makes up our body and our spirit. And she was born in like 1953, but I got that this was another lifetime in 1957 in a different country on a different continent. And she said, well, what's that mean? That's not past life. I said, no, it's a concurrent life happening in the same reality, the human reality, but like on a different time clock. Because she was a baby in her life that she's living right now. But in this 1957 life, she was a man and she was 37 years old. And we got what he was going through. And it was a similar script to what she's living in this life now. What's your take on concurrent lifetimes?
I mean, definitely. I mean, we're multidimensional. So there's so many happening all at the same time. And as we just explained, there's no time in your 4D and your 5D and your higher realms. So it would make absolute sense that we are living a lot of, I'm in like so many apocalyptic scenarios when I navigate the astral. I'm like saving planets, and like sometimes I'm like, shooting like beams of light at people to assist them. And sometimes it's me. Sometimes I'm like this 7-foot tall man. Sometimes I'm like an etheric being. Sometimes I'm like a blob. I don't even have a body. So for sure, like we definitely exist in all these parallel reality and simultaneous realities. And it's interesting when they start to merge, because then that means that you're starting to do soul fragment retrieval and you're integrating part of yourself. So for me, for example, I have different higher versions of myself that I work with when I work on clients that live in like high vibrational frequency spaces. So I've got a 9th dimensional Pleiadian being that I work with and a 12th dimensional mantis being that I work with, which are me existing, but in parallel timelines and realities, but also at the same time. And they're also me in the future and me already existed, if it makes sense. So yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. So when I go to that place of like, what? I think I say to myself, I don't have to understand it. Where I go is, will I understand it when I'm in heaven? When I'm back into non-physical, and I believe I will. And it will make total sense then. But for me to make sense of all of it now, I don't really need to go there. I need to experience what I'm experiencing in this moment. I know I get into different realities when I'm communicating with deceased loved ones and real time with people who are dying, or pets or trees or whatever. If we're doing past lives, I understand I'm in a different reality, and I don't know how it all works, the mechanics of how it works. I just know it works. So yeah, I can dissect it all day long, but I figure that's not my wheelhouse. I can do all this other stuff.
Stuck in the loopholes.
yeah. Go down the rabbit hole. Exactly. You've mentioned soul fragments a couple of times. What's a soul fragment?
So what happens is, so first of all, I just want to say for everyone who's listening, you're already whole. There's nothing missing from you. You don't have to, you don't need soul fragments to be whole. You're already whole. However, when you start working on yourself and, doing the shadow work and healing and whatnot, and you start having recollection of these past, parallel, and future lifetimes and experiences, what happens is, so again, I'm going to give a practical example because it's the easiest way. I was shot in like, I don't know, maybe it was like the 1400s and like maybe did they have guns there? Maybe it was the 1500s. Anyway, I was shot in like a revolt in like a town. And when I went back and relived that experience, I actually did. It was one of the first times that I had past life recollections, and I was with a colleague, and she did the QHHT Dolores Cannon method, which sent me back, and that was something that came through. Anyway, long story short, I relived it, and it was very intense because I got shot, and I could feel the warm blood seeping out of my back. And it's like a feeling that like I've never been shot in this lifetime. Like how would I know that the blood is warm? Like it was just, anyway, long story short, when you die in quite traumatic ways, or let's say, the witch wound, all the witch trials, all the women that were like hung and burnt and whatnot, sometimes a piece of your soul fragments out. And what happens when you do this healing, when you do this energy work, when you reintegrate it, and sometimes having memory of it is enough. Sometimes you need to cry. Sometimes you need to send love to the situation. Anyway, when you reintegrate this part of self, you then open and activate more of your psychic abilities and senses. So more of your clairs, more of your connection, more of your understanding. So this would be essentially, how the soul fragment retrieval works. And again, like, you don't have to do it. Like, you can live a perfectly nice life without going in your previous lifetimes and having knowledge of them. But at some point, if you're here to learn the lessons, you will see that the lessons will come to you and you will have to shift in one way or another. And whether the lesson learning is releasing attachment to a toxic union, while you do that, you might be releasing it also in other lifetimes, but not have the conscious awareness of it. But because you've done it in this experience, you've reprogrammed yourself and you've let it go and you've done soul fragment retrieval. So I just do it consciously and assist people doing it to do it because it's my work and what I do. But you don't necessarily, like, it's obviously quicker if you go to someone who knows, what they're doing. It helps, but you can still do it, in your own time within your own experience.
So it sounds like the technique for soul fragment retrieval involves, or does it always involve, past life regression or past life information coming forward? Is that how it works? And then once you identify it, then the soul fragment is rejoined back to the person's soul in this lifetime? Is that?
I wouldn't say always. I mean, I try to never really deal in absolutes because there's so much that, we don't know. But that would be one way. Yeah, that would be one way of doing it. But again, you can also do it by teaching someone boundaries. And, they have been abused all their life from their father. And one day they stand up to him and say, no, I'm leaving the house or whatever. And they're doing a soul fragment retrieval. So it's just generally working on your self-healing, the shadow work, and whatnot. So everyone also operates in different ways. Like, I will actually go in, see the timeline, neutralize, clear it, and then tell the person, I've opened the door and did this, then this is what you need to do, sort of thing. But other people work in different ways as well. So I think everyone has their own way of doing or working with this.
You mentioned shadow work a couple of times. For those who don't know what that is, can you explain that for us, please?
Sure. Shadow work is just a term. I mean, this whole industry is like terminology. So shadow work would be, you get triggered. Okay, something triggers you. You ask, okay, why is it triggering me? Okay, what is it trying to show me? What is it reflecting back at me? And seeing within your own reaction to it. It's learning to respond instead of react. That would be a good way of seeing it. Going into the uncomfortable parts of self. If something makes you feel upset or sad, or you don't want to face a specific person, go there and do it. That's also shadow work. Forgiveness would be also shadow work. So again, like, you've been mistreated or someone treated you in what you would consider to be unfair, and you forgive them and let it go, because holding onto it is only harming you. So shadow work is just a term to really explain, working on yourself and going into the uncomfortable places and spaces that, instinctively you might have been programmed to avoid.
Okay, this is a 3-part question, this next one.
Okay, I'm ready.
How do you do the work that you do? Do you meditate for an hour first? Do you light candles and hum a tune, or what do you do to get into the frequency that you want to be in, first of all? Secondly, how'd you learn how to do this stuff and what attracted you to it? And thirdly, what did your family think about it when you first started doing it, and what do they think now? Is that even a part of your life?
Yeah, I'll take them one at a time. So I'm at a point where my channel is very embodied and integrated. I don't really have to do anything to do the work that I'm doing now because I've been doing it for so long. And I mean, I'll channel all day, every day for clients. So I do tend to follow structure. So yes, I do. I mean, I've got a blue candle on for communication whenever I'm doing any work where I'm communicating live. Then I'll light incenses here and there. I do shielding. I do work a lot with
Which
the
is
somatic.
what shielding?
I do a process called 12-dimensional shielding. I activate my Merkaba, pull it down, anchor into Gaia, pull it up, create a shield, and anchor into Andromeda. It's actually based on the Lisa Renee meditation. You can find it on YouTube. It's called 12-dimensional shielding. So that's the one that I mainly work with. But enough is, imagining a bubble of white light around you. Again, connecting to Gaia, the core of the earth, imagining light coming out from your heart and coming around your system. So, but always shielding out of love, never out of fear, because then it's counterproductive and, you're entering in a space where you're attracting things that you don't want. So, like today, I was in the car and I was feeling like super irritated. I was like, okay, let me just like redo a bit more shielding. And I did more shielding and I was fine. So I always profess in the saying that you don't need to be a master meditator to operate from a high vibrational frequency space. I mean, I lived in India. I've learned from the sadhus. I've traveled. I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. I did a whole bunch of things, and it's good. It helps meditation. It's a tool like everything else. You don't have to meditate 10 hours a day to operate from a high baseline vibrational frequency space. So I wouldn't say I have a specific process. Whenever you'll see when I'm channeling, I do pull in a bit of gridding just to grid the space. I will clear my space as well after like a day of work, but I'll have candles. You can see behind me there's a candle going. I have candles 24/7 going, and based on what I'm working with, I'll have different colors. I've got a team of about 300 beings that I work with. I work with Hindu deities. I work with Egyptian deities. I work with elementals. I work with crystals. I work with a lot of different galactic beings. And then I'll work with my client's team as well. So based on who wants to come through for them, I'll work for them. So that's kind of like my process. I got into this. I mean, I was always intuitive and psychic. I was one of those kids who would get like prophetic dreaming and couldn't sleep and told their parents, I can't sleep, but there's beings in my room and no one believed me. And then when I became a psychic for a living, they were like, oh, you're really sorry. And I'm like, yeah, I was actually seeing stuff. So, and I come from a long lineage of witches. My mom has psychic vision and intuition, and my grandmother did as well, but they didn't do it like for a living. But my mom is still with us. My gran has passed on. She's assisting me occasionally from the other side. So that kind of runs in my family, if it makes sense. And yeah, I think my parents were a little bit it was interesting. I mean, I started very early with the tarots and all of that. I had my first tarot deck at 12. So it was kind of like always like a thing. They never really judged me. I took my Reiki attunements about 10 years ago. So I opened my first Reiki studio at like 24, 25 or something. I was doing it like as a side job next to, my other job. So they kind of already knew that I was into that industry and into that space. And I think, when they saw that, I was happy and it worked, and I don't think they fully consciously understand, but they're very supportive. So that's all I need,
So if your mom and your grandmother could do some of this, it sounds like you've left them in the dust with your abilities compared to what theirs were, primarily because you've sought them out and you've educated yourself on them. It's interesting to me that they, as a child, didn't believe you when you were seeing entities and things like that. And I find that happens a lot. That's why I wrote my children's book series, Angel Messages, for kids, for dogs, for cats, and for truth. And it's to help parents and grandparents explain to the child what's going on when the parent and grandparent doesn't understand. And even though the parent can't see great grandpa Jimmy well, this 3-year-old can, and the 3-year-old knows stuff about great grandpa Jimmy that there's no way he could know because this man died long before this child was ever thought of, let alone incarnated. So I find that fascinating. I think we all have the ability. It's just a matter of developing it and then enhancing it. Would you agree with that?
Totally, completely. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get at it. It's like playing a sport, like if you practice, you're going to get better at it.
Right. I agree. Okay. Let's dive into the 3D, 5D, 12D, whatever. And please explain it to like a 6-year-old. That's how I need you to explain it. Like, pretend I'm a 6-year-old and you're going to explain it really simply to me so that I can get it. Because I hear people throw around these terms and I just gotta go, I have no clue what they're talking about. So.
Okay. So as I said before, like your 1D would be your plane of existence where something just is. It just is. So it's like, imagine a rock. Okay. It just is. Okay. Because you have dimensional densities of souls and then you have dimensional densities of constructs that you live in. And that's two different things. So I'll go into both. Okay. So now we're talking about, a rock, it's a one-dimensional density being in the 1D. Okay. Your second dimensional density will be something is and it has consciousness of being. So it would be something like a dog would be in your higher tiers of 2nd D. A tree would be in your lower tiers of 2nd D, if it makes sense. If we are responding it to like, a soul density. And then your 3D, which is, your humans, but the starseed souls are more evolved, but your 3D would be your whole construct around here. Something is that has consciousness of being, where also beings from 1D and 2D live in the 3D because the dogs and the rocks also live in the 3D, but their soul consciousness is not as developed as the soul consciousness would be within a human being or a starseed. But we are still limited here by time and space within the 3D. Okay, then when you enter your astral realm, which would be your 4D, where your spirits who have passed on often reside, there is no limitation of time, just of space. So you still need to walk and fly and do things, And then in your 5D, so imagine they all like overlapping one on top of each other. And then in your 5D, you would have everything that's going on below, but no limitation of time and space. And then in your 6D, you would start seeing your beings, which are called a collective consciousness. So something like the Christ consciousness, the Ra collective, which would be souls that have merged together to become one bigger soul to then get closer to source consciousness. So let's say 5 souls, they've learned their lessons and they're like, oh, we want to get back together to become more embodied within each other and then, make our way closer back to source consciousness. It's all about, going back to that, it's source experiencing itself and having the lessons. So does this explain it a bit better?
Yeah, a lot better. And it's reminding me of, while I'm listening to you, I'm getting what I call divine downloads. So I'm getting information from spirit downloaded into my head. And what I just was getting in my head was, it kind of reminds me of Kabbalistic healing, the Jewish mysticism healing, because they have these different layers.
Oh, I don't know.
Healing.
Yeah. I don't know how it works.
It's very ancient and it's very powerful. I studied it for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's so powerful that it's not written down anywhere. It's all oral tradition and it's all past. It used to be that you had to be over 40 and be male and be a rabbi, which when I learned it, I wasn't any of the above, but it's because it's so powerful. And there are some scholars that believe that in the New Testament, the stories go from Jesus being 12 in the temple, and then he comes back when he's around 30. Well, so what happens between 12 and 30? And there are biblical scholars that believe that Jesus was in Egypt and other places learning, India, places like that, learning these other healing techniques, and Kabbalistic healing, which is the ancient Jewish mysticism healing, was part of that equation. Not to negate that he was, what Christians believe, the Son of God and, and could perform miracles and stuff, but he was here to have the human experience. So perhaps he was combining his divine skill sets with human skill sets, in these different healing modalities. And then that was part of what was going on. Who knows? We'll find out when we're in heaven. But it's at least an interesting concept. And when I get stuck on something like that, I don't believe that we're always supposed to know what the answer is. I think, my goodness, people have been interpreting and just, pontificating and all of that on the Torah, on the New Testament, on all the ancient texts since the beginning of time. And for instance, in the New Testament, scholars have been debating this stuff for over 2,000 years. And it's the same writings. So I don't know that it's necessary for us all to understand every nuance of it. I think to your point earlier, if we can pay attention to how it feels to us, does it resonate with us and with what our path is that we're exploring? That's all we need to know.
Yeah, okay. For sure.
Anything else you want to mention about that?
No, I just want to say with me, like I specifically get told to not do research to certain subjects because I have my own channel. So they're like, if you need to know, we're going to send you the information. Then there's books and things where they're like, go read this, read that. Like there's like 5 different books right now that I'm reading, but I only read like certain chapters in between sort of thing. That's like how they make me operate. So what I know, it's because I've channeled it or because it was relevant to me or my experience at that moment in time. Having said that, I obviously have my own interests and do my own research and whatnot, but a lot of things they're like, actually don't, because it's just gonna confuse you.
Well, I get that all the time too. Not don't research this, but I'll be working on something. Let's say I'm answering a question somebody has submitted and we're going to be doing it in the blog for that week. I'll be led where to go get the information that I need to answer the question. Yeah. It sounds like you're doing the same thing. You talk about that you're involved in raising the vibration of the planet. Say more about that. What's going on there? How do you do it? How's it going to affect things?
Well, I mean, first of all, every time I do collective work that assists in raising the vibrational frequency of the planet. So whether it's like a workshop, whether I'm doing a channeling, whether I'm working on a one-on-one, whether I'm working on a group of people. So that's one way. I do grid work as well. I get sent to specific areas in the world, like nature forests, mountains, old like temples. I did a lot of work when I was in India. And then I'll actually work on the grid, which is the ley line and the energetic portals where the ley lines cross. And it's usually clearing. I'll generally usually do clearing. In the last 2 weeks over the Lions Gate portal, I was sent with a group of about 100 other energy workers in the astral space to clear mountains. So we were literally extracting low vibrational frequency beings that had been residing into mountains for quite a while. And they were clearing through the systems of quite a lot of these energy workers, myself included, as per contract for that experience. So I work a lot with the land. Sometimes I don't even know. They just say to me, you need to go here. And this is when I get there, I know what I need to do. So like one of the places I need to go is New Orleans. And they actually even said to me where I need to go stay in the French Quarter. But I don't know when that'll be, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I get there. I'll know only when I get there, sort of thing. So that's how I work. And actually, in February, I'm going to be at the Conscious Life Expo again. I was there last year in LA, and I'm going to be presenting and speaking about planetary grid work and how this works and how anyone can do it, and teach people how to learn how to do this to assist on a broader spectrum level.
I had a bunch of girlfriends meet me in New Orleans for my 40th birthday, and we spent the weekend there, and it was a blast. They flew in from all over the country. It was so much fun. And we went as one of our outings to the open market area in the French Quarter. And oh my God, the frequency in there felt so bad to me that I needed to leave. And I was talking with a couple of my girlfriends that are into woo-woo about that. I'm seeing they were feeling the same thing. And we were thinking, what the heck is going on? So we didn't explore it because we were there celebrating, my birthday, but it was really interesting. So when you're saying you don't know what you're going to do there, I think you're probably going to go to the open market for part of it in the quarter and see what's going on there and see what's happening. Okay. What's the rainbow ray spectrum?
It's basically just the energetic spectrum that I work with because I've had a lot of lifetimes in Pleiades. That's mainly, it's like if you imagine a healing frequency that comes in like a multitude of rays and colors, that's the one that I work with basically. It's just kind of like my imprinting structure. So if people have vision activated will see a lot of rainbows around me. Whenever there's rainbows, like I'll connect energetically to them. And yeah, it's just, again, it's like terminology.
The interesting thing about that is I had a client this morning and we were talking with her deceased brother's spirit in heaven. And she said, does he have a message for me? And it's been my experience. I'd love to hear if it's yours as well, that they don't come in with some earth-shattering, advice that's going to change somebody's life. They'll come in with something that's pretty random and basic. And so this guy says, his spirit says, remember the rainbows. And she went, oh my God. And I said, so obviously that means something to you. And she said, yes. As children, we used to chase rainbows, and we have so many pictures of the rainbows that we took as children. So she said that makes total sense that he's saying, remember the rainbows. And that's how I heard it. Remember the rainbows. So now you're talking about the rainbow spectrum as well. You say you're a galactic contact. What's that mean?
I channel galactic beings.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, I work with this 9th-dimensional Pleiadian version of myself and a 12th-dimensional mantis being version of myself. But depending on who I have in front of me, clients, I'll have their galactic family sometimes come through and then channel specific beings for them. Sometimes I'll channel beings that are just like outside the atmosphere here. Sometimes I'll channel like children, aliens, sort of thing, hybrid beings as well. So it really, it really depends. I generally tend to operate through a higher version of myself. And, through that, then whatever else wants to connect in. It's quite funny whenever I do lives on Instagram. Generally, I've got maybe, about 100 people on, and then I've got all these beings from their like councils and galactic families and parallel lifetimes that want to come through, and they literally start forming like a queue behind me, and they like all want to come in, and I'm like, guys, like, no, I just need to kind of like clear the solar plexus, remove the blockages. Like I do work that is good for everyone, because if I start giving specific messages to everyone on the live, I'm never going to get out of it. So I know you probably understand what this is like. Yeah.
Yeah. Every Thursday night, Ask Julie Ryan, my call-in show, we always have way more callers and questions on the YouTube live than we have time to answer. But it's still so much fun. And I just trust that the people I'm supposed to talk to are the ones who show up and pose the questions, and their questions get answered. And then inevitably, and I'm sure you realize the same thing, those questions that get asked and answered benefit many other listeners.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why those people are chosen to ask their question, because there's a bigger picture happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny when you mentioned that they don't come through with these like earth-shattering messages, because I always also tell my clients, I'm like, give me like precise questions. It'll be easier, instead of like, oh, do they have a message for me? Like, there's something also called the law of non-intervention, which I'm sure also applies to people who've passed on. Like, I speak more to galactic beings and higher versions of self, but it's the same process, that they can't come and say, oh, you need, because they're like, oh, what job should I do? I'm like, they're not going to come tell you that you need to do one job instead of the other, because that's like, a violation of your own sovereignty. Like, they're going to empower you and be like, hey, use your skills that you learned growing up or whatever. But they're not going to say, oh, go become a potter or, I don't know, a builder instead of an architect, sort of thing. So, it's the same in my experience. I always say it's better if you give me like more precise and direct questions for me to get answers, rather than like a very vague, oh, like, what should I do with my life? What is my mission? And people don't know. So you have to obviously explain it to them.
Well, and that's the question that everybody asks. Does so-and-so have a message for me? And then it'll come in with something random that is not that earth-shattering. But again, it's intended for them to know, yes, we are communicating with your deceased brother who you chased rainbows with when you were a child, because that's something that means something to her. And perhaps the big life-changing message is, yeah, you're talking with your brother's spirit. It's possible. It happens all day, all the time. Does everybody have galactic relatives or galactic past lives? Do all humans have that?
Not necessarily past lifetimes, but we all have galactic DNA within us because we were made by, ET beings. So our DNA, we all have a mixture of galactic DNA. So if we learn to tune into that, then we can go back and trace back to our origins.
Are the galactic beings more advanced, like from a consciousness standpoint, from an intelligence standpoint, from a combination of all of the above than humans?
Yeah, most of them are. But surely there's planets and, constellations out there with primitive life being forces where it's just like elementals or like, I don't know, amoebas or, and like, for sure. Yeah. There's less evolved ones, but most of the ones that are in contact with Earth, well, I would say all the ones that are in contact with Earth and communicating with us are more evolved, yeah.
Okay. So I want you to channel the light language, but first, here's my last question for you. Why do we incarnate in our human form?
To learn lessons, I would say, to learn lessons I mean, Earth is great. Like, why would you not want to be here? Like, there's great food. Like, there's a lot of pleasures and a lot of beautiful things to do here. Like, whenever people come to me and they're like, oh, this is my lifetime, I don't want to come back. I'm like, I want to come back. I like it here. Why would I want to be somewhere where I can't do all the, great, amazing stuff that I can do here? And I think every soul's reason for incarnating is different. So we can't, again, deal in an absolute and say, someone might incarnate to learn a lesson of non-attachment. Someone might incarnate to learn a lesson of unconditional love towards their brother, which was their, I don't know, slave master in a previous lifetime, and then they choose to come here together as brothers to learn to get along, sort of thing. So I think every soul has its own journey, but obviously if it's here now, then it is to learn some kind of lesson.
Well, of course you're going to say food first. You grew up in Italy, for heaven's sakes. So what are we incarnating?
That was very human of me.
I love that. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Well, I'm really excited to witness one of your channeling sessions. And afterwards, let's do a debriefing after you're done doing this channeling. Everybody that's watching and listening, you're going to want to stay tuned for this because it's going to be fun to see what arises from this channeling. Do I need to ask you a specific question?
No, you can just close your eyes.
Do I say, what do you have? Do you have a message for me? Like I hear from my clients all the time. Do you have a message for me, for my spirit? So, okay.
No, you can just close your eyes and start anchoring into the body as you find your comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. And with every exhale, you release all that doesn't serve you anymore. And as you start to relax the body, the system, the energy field, you stay in a space of openness and oneness. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above and sound of one to seal the grid from below. As we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, and anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good, you're welcome in the space. Opening systems, opening. Raya sieta cara ishira taka. Riena riatri koro trokera ishira yatri kora siete kona yashira yatra. Riena riatri akira trekre opening, cooling in, divine rays, coming in, anchoring, rainbow rays, plus and white lights, silver rays, rainbow rays, anchoring. Opening, expanding, 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 expanding into more light, expanding, 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 releasing, 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 opening, releasing, opening, 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 letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, removing, removing, decording, detangling, detangling, expanding, expanding, balancing, 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 attuning, balancing, attuning, attuning, aligning, 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 aligning systems. Nasha te queria kukura ishirayata. Tre kukura si ayate na niare tre atre si kura ishirayata. Rana reatrik creo in more light, divine rays, anchoring into blueprint structure, connecting your pathways, synapses, connecting, anchoring, white light, divine rays, anchoring, more light, more clarity, opening up to more clarity, more knowledge of self, more understanding of self, codes of knowledge, attuning, anchoring, embedding, grounding, anchoring, attuning, raya, setukua, ishiraya, the crack, expanding, letting go, expanding, letting go, clear, releasing, cranial structure, releasing peripheral, clear, releasing, opening, two more light, divine rays, anchoring, ratre tokokoro ishinayataka, ratre atreo koro kotra, connecting to heart center, expanding, opening, attuning, clear, releasing, letting go, ratre atekura isiataka. Triatrik erokura yase nahashira se sorokura ishira yet more understanding of self, codes of knowledge, trusting of self, self-love, self-trust, clear, releasing, letting go any shame, fear, guilt, resentment, clear, releasing grief, releasing, expanding, more light, divine rays, anchor, green rays, aura rays, into the heart, expanding, rainbow rays, into the heart, unconditional love of self, opening, expanding, yapura tre se kokora tre okoro, releasing judgment, self-judgment, clear, releasing, attuning, kuru isirataka, ranariate kuk ek ora tre kuru satya shinayataka, ranatera tri tre to na yasia shirayataka, tre naria shiro kukura yatara, tre kura si ayate kua ishinayatara, tre rakirata. Creatre ukura isia expanding, grounding, anchoring, tashie saraita. Tratare atre ukua niate tuning niatara ishirayatra. Taratreatre kura ishirayatra. Trenara tre atre ukura isia se serapia shira grounding, balancing, anchoring, closing, sealing, 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 attuning. Hashia sera yasara. Tre kuro, tre akira te kuma ishira yatra, tre ishira yatra. Uro ishina yatre. Shukra si atera ishara yatra. Tre te kara ishira se anchoring back to the now, to the present moment, coming into the heart center. Grounding into the heart, coming into a space of understanding, coming back to the body, coming back to the physical vessel. And whenever you feel ready, we can open our eyes, come back to the now, into the present moment. How are you feeling?
Wow. All right. So, first of all, I'm hot. I'm feeling myself. I'm like, holy criminy, this is like having a hot flash. So when you were, I'm very visual. I'm a visual learner. So here's some of the visuals that I got. It's going to be really fun. You guys listening, I want you to, put in the comments what you got, if anything, what you felt, what you saw, whatever. So you talked about the angels to the north, south, east, and west. So I saw that in a grid. I saw a line like a cross. I saw them like a weather vane, north, south, east, west. And then you called in other spirit guides. So they filled in those quadrants of that grid. And then there were more and more and more spirits coming. And then when you said to anchor, okay, anchor, those really big, I think they're iron, those chains with that great big hook on them. Like you'll see them at ports and stuff, and you'll see them on construction sites when they've got steel beams and they're trying to lift them. I watched this hook thing go down and anchor me into the center of the earth. And then you kept saying, keep anchoring, keep anchoring. And once I was anchored in with that hook, then there were these beams of light going on. As soon as I anchored into the core of the earth, then there were these rings of light that surrounded all the spirits. And there were bazillions of spirits that came in.
I work with a big team.
I guess. And my team's probably pretty big too, considering what I do. So, between you and me, girl, we got the teams going on. So there were these big, huge rays that were rings. They looked like Saturn rings almost. But I was looking at in a 2D form, and then the rings were going around. And then when you said release the grief and the anger and all that stuff, I saw the whole front of my body open up like you open up a box. You slit the tape and you open up the box, and I saw moths fly out. Not butterflies, moths. Mm-hmm. Like moths that are going to come in and eat your wool clothes in your closet if you've got them, because that was negative stuff, right? And then when you started saying, okay, we're coming back into the body, the heat went away, and I could feel, it wasn't cold, but I could feel kind of like a cool breeze that was cooling down my body as I was doing that. So I laugh about this because I get to see all these wild things when I'm with my mentor. I have for 30 years. And I always say, this must be what an LSD trip looks like, or an ayahuasca trip. I've never done any drugs, so I don't know, but I've read people's accounts of that. And we laugh and we always say, it's like, you don't need drugs, just learn woo-woo. You can see all this wild stuff and experience it. So it was visceral. I could feel it. I could see it in my mind's eye. I could hear it. I don't remember smells or tastes or anything, but the kinesthetic, the visual, all of that was all present. So I could see that you were fanning yourself too. Do you get hot when you're doing that?
No, I just clear. This is how I clear. I just remove through. But yes, I do overheat as well. Yeah, I'm also quite hot. Yeah, I do overheat. It depends, not always. But it's so funny that you mentioned the box, because when I did the transmission, I did a public transmission. There were like maybe 300-400 people early last year, and we were on a panel. And the girl sitting next to me, she was super visual, and she was like, "Babe, it's like you open the blueprint and you pull out all this stuff, and then you kind of like reclose them and retie them, and then they've just cleared all these things, and you go in and do like, yeah."
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting, the analogy that I saw of the moths, and there was a bunch of them coming out. And I'm genuinely a happy person. I mean, it's not very often that I get mad or whatever at this age, at 65. I mean, really, I've done my share of all the mad, all that jazz earlier. But what do moths do? Moths eat things that you love. What do anger and jealousy and all those negative emotions do? They eat away the joy and the love that we have towards other people and even towards ourselves a lot of the time.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I thought that was a great analogy that I saw coming out as you were channeling all of that.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you for doing that. That was just terrific. All right. You are just darling, and you're fascinating and obviously really talented. How can people learn more about you and the work that you do?
They can just go to my website, which is www.althealucrezia.com. I'm sure you can put my links. And then through my website, I offer a lot of different things. So I offer trainings. I do 6-week and 6-month programs for channeling, for really like stepping into the higher version of yourself and then being of service, whatever that means for you. I work organically with each individual client. I do once-off light language sessions and activations. I do Akashic clearings. I've got a Costa Rica retreat coming up in November. I've got a few slots left for that from the 17th to the 22nd of November. I've got a workshop coming up, Manifestation Magic, on the 9th of September. That's a portal. It's a portal workshop. And then the 15th of September, I've got a collective healing event that's coming up as well. I've got a whole bunch of, there's about 20 different workshops on my website as well that people can go through and find. And I've got meditations even for just like $12 too. So I offer, like a whole wide array and bunch of different things. And I just want to quickly add, for the people who listen to the like language, you'll be processing and clearing for a few days. It can take up to 3 weeks for full integration of everything. So you might feel like you're going to, get a little bit sleepy, or you might get triggered more easily. You might feel emotional. Your astral space might be more active. So just be mindful that this is a full system recalibration. So, stuff might come up. Yeah.
Is there anything they need to do? They need to drink extra water and put
drink
lemon
lots
in it
of
or
water.
something?
Yeah. Drink lots of water.
As they're clearing. Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, what a delight to get to talk to you and have you explain all this complex 3D, 5D, 75D, whatever, different concepts to me and to those of us that are listening and watching. All right, everybody, that's it for today. Sending you lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama, mwah, and from South Africa, too, where Althea is. We'll see you next time. To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your family and friends.